At every stage of this course, you will be asked to memorize a pattern and then explore it further through improvisation. The relationship of memorization to improvisation is worth reflecting on. If you spend all your time memorizing patterns and no time improvising, then when you do try to improvise, you won't know what it feels like to think spontaneously and react to the moment. As such, your improvisations are going to be quite limited. On the other hand, if you don't spend time looking at useful patterns and memorizing them, then you're limiting yourself just as much. Developing skill as an improviser is about cultivating an attitude where you always remain open and are always paying attention to what you could do and what is possible. And there is nothing about this that needs to conflict with memorization. In fact, memorization, which gives you access to what you did in the past, can be a fantastic aid as you decide what to do when you're improvising. In this course, we will use a very simple but highly effective method for improvisation. For each new pattern, we will first learn it in C major, and then we will practice it in all 11 of the remaining keys. The order in which we do this will follow the circle of fifths. So if we begin in C major, we will then practice the pattern in F major, B flat major, E flat major, all the way round till we get back to C again. This approach is very effective for several reasons. Firstly, it allows us to develop fluency in all 12 of the keys, which is really essential for us as improvisers. Secondly, it guarantees that we practice each pattern at least 12 times. In addition, because each key feels slightly different under the hand, we get the opportunity to experience each pattern in 12 slightly different contexts. And when you get to witness the same pattern occurring in 12 slightly different ways, one's knowledge and understanding of that pattern is enhanced. There's one final reason why I think that this approach is so effective. Whenever we learn anything, our progress is most efficient when we get really clear feedback on how we're progressing. Now imagine this situation. Suppose you've been given a new pattern to learn and you only practice it 2 times. It's possible that you have successfully memorized it, but it's hard to be sure. So by giving ourselves this slightly more demanding task of playing the pattern in every key without error, we can be confident that we have done a good job and that we have committed this pattern to memory, and that gives us the assurance that we are ready to move on to the next stage. I have a couple more points to make about practice. Firstly, whenever you learn a pattern for the first time, it is essential that you practice it slowly. By practicing a pattern slowly, you give yourself the opportunity to experience what it feels like to get it right. And with that experience, you will be able to recreate that feeling when eventually you attempt it at a faster speed. In contrast, if you practice quickly from the beginning, you're more likely to make mistakes. And if you allow mistakes to happen, you deny yourself the chance to learn what it feels like to get it right. I like to use the example of the alphabet. I suspect that many, if not most adults, could probably recite the alphabet very quickly without too much difficulty, like this. A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now, it's not because we've all been practicing the alphabet and revising it every week for the past 25 years. It's just that we learnt it as kids very slowly. It would be totally absurd for an elementary school teacher to go up to the children and say, hey kids, we're going to learn the alphabet today, and it goes like this: A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. There's no chance that the kids are going to learn that. And the same logic applies to music. Learn it slowly and you will be able to do it fast later on. Second point I would like to make is that I strongly recommend practicing with a metronome. A metronome gives us an extra kind of feedback on how we're doing. If, for example, we are learning a new pattern and there is one little bit of the pattern that is a little bit harder than the other bits, it's possible that without a metronome we might naturally slow down at that moment just to give ourselves a little bit more time. And it's possible that we won't notice that we're doing that, in which case we're unlikely to pick up on the fact that we actually haven't quite mastered that bit. In contrast, if you use a metronome, you can notice those moments very quickly and then you can isolate them for further practice, and that's going to make the practice session more efficient. Now, both of those points that I've just made not only apply to memorization, but they also apply to improvisation. If you practice improvisation slowly, you will learn what it feels like for your thinking to keep at pace with the unfolding music. And that's going to make it easier to keep pace when you later on speed things up. Also, the metronome is a really useful tool for improvisation practice because the inevitability of the next beep keeps us looking forward and keeps us thinking creatively instead of giving us the temptation to try and look back at what we've done and to try and correct that and think about it. So for that reason, the metronome is also an excellent tool when we are practicing improvisation.